Well, thank you all for being here and being part of Startup Chippewa Valley. I'm going to kick this off by turning it over to Ray Hagemeyer, who's the queen bee of Chippewa Valley Startup Week. You've been doing an awful lot, and there have been so many events that are going on this week, but tell us how it's going and what we're all here for.
Amazing. I'll stand here for now. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Ray. I'm so happy to be here with the Musky Tank Mixer, Danielle, Tony, Pete. You guys are rock stars. I wish I could stick around a little bit longer and hear the whole story, but I know everyone here is really excited to hear about the growth that you've achieved coming from the true startup mode up until really now successful businesses. That is really what Startup Chippewa Valley is all about, is how do we get people in our local community to be able to do exactly that? How do you take an idea, get across that initial stumbling block of where to even start, and move into a scalable, growing business? So I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do want to say a couple things. First of all, the mission of Startup Chippewa Valley is to educate, celebrate, and connect entrepreneurs, startups, and small businesses across the Chippewa Valley. We're really grateful to many sponsors this year. In particular, I want to give credit, and I know you will do this as well, Pete, but to the sponsors tonight. Thank you to Mauro Sperry. You'll correct me if that's the correct pronunciation, but thank you so much for sponsoring tonight. Really happy to have you. Thank you to the Brewing Project for sponsoring in an in-kind manner our venue. And I want to highlight Royal Credit Union in particular, who is sponsoring our keynote speech on Friday. Want to pitch that? Working mama here, guys. So, yep, here's the keynote speaker. 1 o'clock on Friday at the Pablo Center. Thank you, Pete. So, who here has heard of AI? Please, everyone, raise your hand, guys. Okay, come on. So we have an AI technologist named Emily Laird from the UW Stout. She'll be speaking. Yep. She'll be speaking and giving a really in-depth presentation about how to use AI in your business. And we'll also be hearing from the founder of Jamf, Zach Halmstead. So really looking forward to hopefully seeing you all there. And I'll turn it back over to you, Pete.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we do want to thank the sponsors. So our program sponsor is Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. I don't think we have anyone here from WEDC tonight, but they, a few years ago, they came to one of these events and said, we like that, and we can't do it any better, so we're going to sponsor you rather than try to set up another program. So they've been kind of a program sponsor every year for the last several years, kind of coming out of the pandemic, and we really appreciate them. Elaine Coughlin is a new employee with WEDC. She just took that job a couple weeks ago, and you might know Elaine from the Coven and Pablo Capital, and she won the Triple E Award last week at the Wisconsin Technology Council Early Stage Symposium. So I'm really proud of her and excited for what she's done, and it's part of the ecosystem here. Ray French is also the regional director for WEDC here, and he provides a lot of help. Second, we have Mauro Sperry. Is it Mauro Sperry? Yeah. Mauro Sperry. We've got Tyler and Alex here tonight, and they're the event sponsor for today. Anything you want these people to know about you guys? Yeah, go ahead. The ad, yeah. Okay, you got it.
So my name is Tyler Sperry, Mauro Sperry Insurance. I'm the fourth generation owner of our family business. We've always been based in Chippewa Falls. We've been there since 1871. I gained control about 2 years ago. My focus is really on community support. So you will see me doing a lot with kids, families, and social services. As far as this, I love seeing what new businesses are doing, whether they're growing. I think the businesses that are growing and starting in our community are what's making the Eau Claire and Greater Chippewa Valley grow. And there's a reason we're drawing so many more people and so many more businesses in this area. So I know I'm new to your event, but I want to thank you because it helps with that vision of growing our area.
Well, we thank you very much for doing this, and it's part of what makes the event work. And we're, when we started this, Musky Tank was our kind of our funny tagline was we're a startup that helps start up. And it's really beyond that. So really our tagline is startup, grow, profit. And so we've got a good startup vibe in this community, and we're really pushing the growth. So how do you grow? So maybe one of you people will be the Zach Halmstead, 10, 15 years from now. And that's part of what we want to be about. My partner, Scott Biederman, is back there. He'll wave. You can wave at him. He's part of what makes this go. And I'll also say that entrepreneurship isn't just startups. It's not just tech. We had a program a while back right in this building downstairs about startup by acquisition. So you buy an existing company and bring new life and new ideas to it. So there's all kinds of entrepreneurship things that happen. Now, before we get into our program with two successful entrepreneurs that I think you're going to really enjoy, I just want a show of hands. How many people are new to Musky Tank today? Oh, wow, that's good. That's quite a few. How many are entrepreneurs? How many are entrepreneurs? Okay, I want to do this. I'm not really sure what it might take. How many are here for a free beer? Okay. Yeah, you can answer more than one. So anyway, that's that's what we want to know, and what it's all about when we started this is sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And so if you come to an event like this, there's no obligation, but you can listen to successful people. You can find, there's an insurance guy here that I might know. There's another service provider I might know. And that's part of the value of doing this kind of networking. So let's get into the program. I've got two successful entrepreneurs here. One is Danielle Goss, the founder of Cool Mocks, a non-alcoholic mocktail company in River Falls, and Anthony Need, the founder of Flowering Lawns, or Flawns. So what's the official name of the company? Okay, so I'm going to ask them a few questions, and then we'll tee it up for you to ask them any questions on what you want to know. So we'll start with Danielle. Take us through the process of how did you get the idea, and I'm cheating a little bit because I know, but how did you get the idea for your company, and then how did you get it started, and just the genesis of Cool Mocks?
Getting started in the spring of 2019, my husband and I found out we're expecting our first child. A very exciting time in our lives, as I'm sure many of you can relate. And I didn't want alcohol, but I wanted something that was fun and social. We're like many people in this room, and Midwesterners for sure, alcohol is a huge part of the culture, right? It's how you socialize. And I, being a registered dietitian by trade, I was just like looking at the shelves at bar, restaurant menus. There was O'Doul's on the shelf at the time. And, even O'Doul's does have 0.5% ABV. Looking at, the 50 pages from the FDA, you find out that there's a 20% variance both ways. And I'm like, well, I don't feel comfortable consuming this kind of beverage. There was maybe like a splash of Athletic Brewing Company on the shelves at that time, but really the category was non-existent. So that summer, I spent crafting my own mocktails from scratch in the kitchen. Did a ton of market research, learned that this evolution and growth of adult non-alcoholic beverages was really flourishing over in the UK, and already had a category really developed for about 3 years. Had read mission vision statements from AB InBev, Molson Coors, Heineken. they all were integrating adult NA in their 2028, 2030. Where are we going? How are we going from just alcohol to a beverage company? So what we learned was convincing enough to know that not just pregnant women were looking for great tasting adult non-alcoholic beverages. So we jumped in at 7 months pregnant that fall and started building the Cool Mox brand. It was a big decision, especially during that time in our lives, but in those months to come, we welcomed our first child. 2 days later, when we got home from the hospital, we had our very first taste testing of the iteration of what would become the Cool Mox Moscow Mule, Strawberry Margarita, and Blackberry Lime Mojito. The months to follow, trying to figure out how do we fund the business to get to our first production run. I had ran a corporate wellness consulting business prior to that and did pretty well. My husband's in the packaging arena by his day to day, and we just really put our heads together and were able to fund it to a certain extent. And then we did, without getting too much into the fundraising cycle, I don't know if I'm supposed to go there. But anyway, we leveraged the resources we had at the time to get us to that initial launch date, right? Which for us meant welcoming our first child, going through all the manufacturing, packaging, design, development pieces, to the pandemic hitting right around the time we were planning to launch the business. And then we ultimately brought it to market in July of 2020.
So who was the first customer? If you didn't hear it, I was going to say, who bought your first sale? Because I know you're in grocery stores, you're in a lot of places now, but where was the first?
Well, so if I were to get really granular, I think it started at the distributor level, because you had to get a distributor to buy in before you could even enter the market, and because we were selling through DSD or beer distributors. So we had, full pitch deck. Like, we were told these guys are really freaking hard, like, good luck. This category didn't even exist. We pull up to a Molson Coors house, to a couple brand managers, and pitching this like crazy idea, right? Like, you sell beer and hard seltzers, and we want to sell you a non-alcoholic mocktail. And again, we were just told, like, it's not going to be easy. And I'm not trying to say it was easy, but we went in prepared. We shared everything, all the market research we did, and we gave them the liquid to try. And they were so excited. They said yes on the spot. And my husband and I, we got in the vehicle afterwards, and we both were just silent. And I think our nervous energy was like, well, maybe they're looking at us through the windows. We better start driving. But we almost just like gasped for air, like, oh my goodness, that was awesome, right? So I don't know that I can technically say what was that very first account, but that was like a really exciting beginning moment.
But that was the first sale, so that's so important, and it's such a cool story. That's why I wanted you to tell it, and it's always be selling and always be closing. But okay, well, we're going to talk to another guy who's I'm a customer of his, and he's a neighbor in my neighborhood. But talk about flowering lawns, and what was the genesis of that idea, and how did you prepare and launch that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and Pete was a customer before Flowering Lawns even existed. So it started out as a lawn care business. Safe and Simple Organic Lawns was the name of my lawn care brand that I started in 2018. And it really wasn't until, a customer came up to me and had a bag of clover seed that they wanted me to spread in their lawn instead of grass seed. Here I am organically trying to get rid of every weed in everybody's lawn. And she's telling me to put one of the hardest to kill weeds into her lawn. And instead of like brushing it off as like, you're crazy lady, I actually opened my ears and listened. I asked why, and why, start with why, Simon. So like, you really need to just think like, why is she asking me this? And so I just started doing some research, and University of Minnesota has a great program to help rejuvenate pollinators, and their bee lab was already, they put out a 12-page document of like what it is, why, how, everything you need to know. And so she kind of led me in that direction, and I was like, okay, well, if one person wants it, maybe there's something here. So again, just like Danielle, I test the market. You see, you do your research, you learn, you develop, and then it wasn't until I went to, on my third attempt, because I was trying to, again, I was on this like track of like organic lawn care, because I wanted to make it available to as many people as possible, try to scale it. Well, how do you scale a service-based business that's not software? It's brick and mortar, it's employees, it's vehicles, it's overhead, and it just doesn't work. So on my third attempt, I got accepted to the Idea Challenge and the Weiss's Venture Home Program. And in that 5-6 month program, they take you from idea creation to pitch, launch day. Where Zach Homestead was one of the people on that pitch day, and it was just amazing to be transformed from a service-based business, which is so restrictive in growth and scalability, to a CPG company that we launched a month before the pitch day. So I was going into that pitch day not with a pitch deck, but we sold out everything we had that we took to Madison to the Home and Garden Expo, and we took pre-orders. And it's like, we need money to get supplies, to get products, to get packaging, to go forward and make this thing, take it to the next level. So that's where it all started, and Pete can attest to it.
Yeah, and it's good stuff. I mean, I had a spot in my backyard that it was in the shade, and all I had was moss growing and mud. And Anthony, what can I do here? And it's like, well, put some pollinators there, and I like it. Anyway, the story here partly is a wise person told me once that your customers will tell you what they will buy if you only listen to them, and sometimes it's really hard to do that. I've lost quite a few votes 1-1, so well, I'm sorry if I'm live streaming this at home. Before we get into funding, are there any mentors or support people that helped you through that early stage traction process?
Well, I'm sitting right next to one, so Pete, thank you. I guess the short answer is so many. I was just telling someone before we started the panel here that people want to help you if you're willing to accept and listen and just connect with people and learn along the way. Not just like people individually, but also programs, resources. I mean, I almost at one point got overwhelmed by all the resources. I was like, I'm resourced out. I just need to focus. But I would say, are we talking specific people or just in general? Okay. Yeah. I mean, very specifically, there are people that come to mind. Jeff Redman out of Hudson. He is an attorney, but also a business coach. And I had joined a CEO roundtable. And actually, that's where I met Pete initially. And because of some of those networking opportunities, I learned about the FFI program, ended up going through the FFI program and met Tara Johnson, who was the founder of Tara's Way, sold that company, and she's played such an incredible role in helping us pivot our business. If I look back 3 years ago, she helped us through some like really unique times from a pro forma perspective, not having that background, being a registered dietitian by trade, I didn't run a CPG company prior to this, so much learning along the way. And then, in terms of just resources and people, I mean, over the last 6 years, I've had 3 children, no maternity leaves, navigating just the uniqueness of that. So my husband, whether he had experience in this industry or not, I couldn't have done any of this without him. So.
Thank you. Anthony, same question.
Yeah, I mean, you really just, if you want the help, it is there for you. So please, you're doing all the right things, right at this moment coming here. But reach out to the Small Business Development Center, the Economic Development Corporation, the SBA. You can go up. It depends what you need, but really just don't stop seeking it out until you actually find it. And I guarantee you the right resource is there for you. So a lot of the names, Elaine Coughlin, Ray French, Adira was also in my, yeah, I mean, it goes, the list goes on. And I feel the same way. Like there was like, okay, just lock me in a room for 24 hours and let me, put this all to good use. And that was great. Part of the Venture Home program, it was the co-lab, now it's the Coven, but now, having a space there where you can do the conference calls, you can go into the private offices, you can go in the co-working space. There were other companies there that were in different stages than me that had already gone through some of my troubles. So having some of those, how did you get through this, selling on Amazon? Like that was a huge hurdle for us, and I reached out on the different, find a co-founder platforms. And some guy was just like, he was in Idaho and he's just like, hey, yeah, I'll help you get your products listed on Amazon. And we'll just you realize that to have a co-founder is like going into a marriage. So do not jump into it. And he was all for just yeah, we'll just be friends for a year and, see what happens. And we didn't go forward from that point, but he is the reason that we are successful on Amazon from the get-go. To do $18,000 in our first month on Amazon with us having absolutely no idea what the hell we were doing at all was absolutely incredible. And thanks to him, and I just found him on one of those startup Founder Institute or something like that. So yeah, it's out there. Don't stop looking until you find it. And if you need any help, I'm more than happy to guide you in the right direction as well. So come talk to me.
Yeah, thank you. Danielle, you hit a little bit on financing. And my side gig is working with the Angel Investor Network. And so both of these people had been before our group. And it turns out one of them took money from investors and one didn't. And when Danielle first came, and I had known her through the Jeff Redmond coaching group that we were involved in. And Tara Johnson was someone who I got on the board of a company I was running in Madison because I wanted an outside person who wasn't an investor but understood the space of working in food industries. And when Danielle first pitched, it was like, this is interesting, but we don't know anything about slotting fees in grocery stores or CPG, but go talk to Tara. And you got into her fellows program. But talk to me a little bit about how that process worked for you then. Why did you decide you needed to take investment? And if you can talk about the mindset and then the process of how you did that. And we ultimately did invest. So we are an investor in Coolmox.
So, as he shared earlier, we have done a combination of bootstrap plus additional ways of funding our business. From the very beginning, like I had shared, we put our own money into the business, and then we did a friends and family round to get us into that first production where we sold a chunk of the business, a small amount. We tried to be mindful, but people who were very close to us who believed in, what we were doing. Not that, anyone we pitched who didn't invest, not that they didn't believe, but, some people who chose to, it was really exciting, right? People that were close to us invested and were able to help see us through to that very first production run. So that was an equity raise, right? That we did at the beginning as we continued to sell product and had to do more inventory runs. And we're still learning the cash flow cycle of running a beverage brand. We were able to get a SBA 7A loan when we engaged with WIBIC, which another fantastic resource who was so helpful in navigating just, okay, what does your forecast look like? What is the threshold of how much we can, support in terms of a loan? So we were able to take advantage of the SBA loan process, and we maxed that amount out at the time. That gave us about a year of runway, I guess, and we then learned, okay, well, we're gonna need some more funding. We tried crowdfunding through a platform called Republic. Ultimately ended up being a combination of fundraising through a crowd safe, which is, shares for future equity, that we raised, like $50,000 through that crowdfunding campaign. If you're not familiar with crowdfunding, it was a really unique way for us to share what we were doing and our mission and where we saw the brand going, and without having to reach out to only accredited investors, we were able to share with friends, family, our network of people in this room who were able to participate, and that's amazing. So I think we learned a lot along the way. Regulatory wise, crowdfunding has been like all over the place. So it was a journey as we were, trying to get the campaign out there, and, ultimately see what the potential of a fundraise through crowdfunding could be. But it is a path to raising money. Fast forward, we were able to get an increase in our SBA 7A funding and got like a little bit more, right? A little bit more runway. And then ultimately started working with Tara. She started doing some fractional CFO work to really help dive into performas and drill down in how we're going to scale this thing. Better understanding our cash flow and what we were going to need, we then opened up a convertible note round, which is where we were fortunate enough to have a few groups in the angel world, including C-Vein, who were able to, really jump in on the opportunity to help us continue to grow the brand. And that was really pivotal for us to, as I sit here today, after a couple years of that funding, it got us to a point where a year ago, not a year ago yet, but at the end of 2024, we were able to have our first profitable year in CPG. That can be a journey, but that was a really proud, exciting moment for us. It was a combination of growth, but also a very focused, intentional job in reducing our cost of goods. From a fundraising point, I share that because there are a lot of funding opportunities that don't open up until you become profitable, like banking, for example. Because we were able to cross that line of profitability, new opportunities in the banking world then opened up to us. So as I sit here today, we were able to do some refinancing with a larger bank in the last 6 months, which was fantastic for us. So we were able to combine those SBA loans. And then additionally, we partnered with that bank to get a SBA 7A Express line of credit. So in the beverage world, we work into a production run. You have to buy all your raw materials, ingredients, packaging, and then you pay for your tolling fee at manufacturing. Some of your then customers, a distributor, might not pay you until net 40, net 60. Oh my goodness. So that cash flow cycle can be really challenging. So when I shared the profitability piece, just that one intentional focused year of we can break even or even turn a profit of $1 had a dramatic impact on our ability to scale the business in the last year.
So thank you. And one of the investors in our group is the numbers geek, and he said that Danielle's numbers, and she has a firmer grasp of her financials than anyone I've seen in 4 years, and that came from the working with Tara. So she was. I had her as a board member in a company I was running in Madison. So really good. So you didn't take outside funding. So how did that work out?
Well, if anyone's thinking about, needing capital or any sort of funding, I just hesitate and go back to Stephen Covey and it's like, begin with the end in mind and really think about what this is. Like, one of the things we learned in the Venture Home program was always be thinking about the exit. And you don't start something and just, hope you have the right child that wants to take it on from you to the next generation and seventh generation or whatever you want to go to. But, a company as a separate entity, you have to think about its life and where it's going to go beyond you. And so, we started down the path. The Venture Home does a great job of painting out that hockey stick growth that everybody's so fond of, but you have to think, is that the right thing for you? And it was pretty close after when we pitched to Seavane. I mean, yes, we didn't take money, but we did have people interested. Okay. So, we did some secondary talks after pitching and determining how much money you need. Danielle mentioned runway. If you're not familiar with that, it's, how much cash to get you to a certain point, and then what do you need to get to the next point? And what do you need to get to the next point? So that's called rounds, right? So you have to keep thinking about not just right here, right now, but how your company is going to grow through time. And what does that mean? You had 3 kids and did this all without maternity leave. I mean, my God, I have 2 little boys and, well, they're growing up now, 11 and 14, but, I had this realization this spring, actually, after we started this business, this whole transition in 2021, 2022. And it was this spring that we just we didn't pump the brakes. We slammed on the brakes. And it was when I hadn't been home in, I don't know, I was home maybe a day or 2 a week for like 6 or 8 weeks, traveling all across the country to go to distributor shows, to go to, all different types of consumer packaging products, figuring out, what our next packaging is going to look like, who our next manufacturer is going to be. Is it coming from China? What's going on with all these tariffs? And I basically said, no, it's not going to work this way. So we turned it into a lifestyle business. We are a privately held family business. We bought a warehouse just up the road, up here off of Truax, and we got rid of all of our distributors, and we mainly went directly, to consumer, mostly e-commerce, and just cut out all the middlemen. And now, as far as capital and funding goes, I didn't forget the question. I'm getting there. But basically, I was lucky enough to come into this with a business. We were a service-based business, so I had a cash flow. I had a company that I just basically did a separate DBA, a doing business as name under, so that I could use, that business as all the expenses for the new business were part of that business. And then once it basically changed, once the new brand became more profitable than the old brand, I shut the old brand down, and we were no longer a service-based business. We were a CPG company. And then I did change institutions financially, and we went to a C corporation. So But basically, when I got to that point of like, okay, are we going to give up equity? Are we going to take on investors? Are we going to shoot for the moon and this hockey stick growth? It just didn't make sense, for my family, for what we wanted to accomplish, for what this business was going to be. And, we have some intellectual property, but we are not, the next Microsoft. So we aren't seeing like a huge acquisition in our 3 to 5 year. The investors want you to get 10, 20x and then sell or be acquired or do something, go public. So that just was not on the horizon for us. So we were cash flow positive from the beginning. Like I said, in that venture home program in that 5-6 months, we launched and we sold out. I mean, right there, we put a few $100s into the company and made a few thousand. Now we can take that 1,000 and make another, 5,000, and then take the 5,000, make 20,000. So, that's just kind of how bootstrapping works. Is you just, if you're a service-based business like my lawn and landscape company, I didn't go out and buy a skid steer. I had to rent it by the day, but I got a 50% down payment for the landscape job, and that paid for all the materials that, covered everything I needed up until I got on the property. And then you take another 25% draw from the customer, and then you take the final 25% on closing. So, on completion. So there's ways to fund without giving up equity. And if you are going to go down the equity route, I highly encourage you to talk to somebody knowledgeable in that, and talk about vesting, talk about, the friends and family around. I mean, that, like you said, a big chunk. I mean, you just got to think, if you keep taking chunks out of the pie, what's going to be left at the end? And true, I would rather own 1% of Amazon than 100% of a failing company. But you got to think about how that pie is going to look after that, third, fourth round, if you're going to go that route. So we decided just to be free and easy, and we take a few family vacations here and there, and we can hire college students and a couple full timers here and there. But that was right for me. So I really want you to think about what's right for you.
Yeah, very well said. The theme both of these two have talked about is startup, growth, profit. And profit is probably the most capital efficient funding mechanism for your company, unless the window is too tight and you have to have co-packers, and so funding does work when you need it, but be smart about it. So any questions from you that you want to ask either of these two? Go ahead, John. Would you do it again?
In progress. Already in progress.
Yes, without hesitation.
Other questions? Go ahead, Brent.
So when you walk through it and you get the photo, you get the time slot, and you get the other thing. So if you don't have one, but talk to me first about how to do it, right? Because the check is going to set up. It's not an AI bot. I made a mistake the first time I did it. Thankfully, he was kind of me and helped me to figure it out.
You have to be a little patient.
Yeah, there's some time. I mean, they're seeds, right? So yeah, we didn't run from birth, so neither do the seeds. So everything takes time to grow. But naturally, it comes into form, and you get a different look every year for the first few years. So you get to enjoy something in the first year, something in the second year, and then all together in harmony the third year. So it's great.
Any other questions? Any Cool Mugs customers? My daughter loves them. She's in there, right? Bill first. Where can we get the drinks?
Great question. Are you local? Okay, great. So locally in Eau Claire, you could go to Woodman's, Festival, Hy-Vee. Those are some, I guess, key accounts to go to. Walmart in Halley, and we sell on Amazon, Walmart.com. We used to sell right on coolmox.com, but right now everything is funneled to our friendly e-commerce partners. So, yes. So outside of the Midwest, well, Walmart is a very significant retailer for us. Publix in the South, if you've ever been to one. We recently launched a LTO seasonal lineup with Sprouts Farmers Market in all of their stores for now through the end of the year. So if you travel down south and end up at a Sprouts, check us out because we've got some fun seasonal items: cranberry mule, a pomegranate spice cider, and a pumpkin spice cider. It's called our Spiced and Sparkling collection. And yeah, I mean, beyond the Midwest, we have, lots of like growing regional retailers. Total Wine is another one that you would stumble upon our brand at.
Scott, did you have a question? Okay, one, go ahead. So did everyone hear the comment? Okay. And my daughter said the same thing. She said it's one of those where I'll take it and then I'll have a drink and then I'll have a Cool Mox and I don't drink as much. And it's good.
Exactly.
So last question. What's next?
Yeah, well, I was talking a little bit to Brent before, but I don't think I actually spilled the beans on you. But we are looking to, you talked about the cash flow cycle of a CPG company, and as a lawn and garden seasonal company, this is kind of our slow time, which I usually like snowshoeing, but someone told me the world's getting warmer. But I haven't snowshoed in a while. But yeah, we are launching a line of premium birdseed blends and birdseed products, along with pollinator, like housing and pollinator, like feeding stations and things like that. So that's a big focus in, this time of year. People like to still attract wildlife to your lawn, landscape, yard, property. So we are continuing that route. And then the other one I said I'm already starting is a wooden toy train company, but that's called Northwoods Trains.
Per your comment, beginning with the end in mind, that is very much top of mind for us at Cool Mox. In the year to come, we're continuing to have more innovation, and I guess the Spiced and Sparkling collection offered up the opportunity for us to think differently and share those ideas with our retail partners. So each quarter, starting in the spring, we will have a seasonal 4-pack out in the market. Some of our current lineup and some new. So in the spring, we'll have a peach hibiscus cider 4-pack. Summer will be our classic margarita. Fall, the pumpkin spice cider, and then the winter time will be the cranberry mule. As you grow as a business, you learn more about what's working and repeating those things that work and listening to your customers, and that's certainly a result of that. And then, yeah, once you get past that startup phase, you achieve profitability. For us, the goal has been to bring something to life that didn't exist. And offer that, the vision was a world where people could show up and what the drink in your hand was wouldn't determine how good of a time you were having, right? And, it's crazy. You look back 5 years ago versus what the stores have today. I mean, we're doing it, right? It's happening, and that's exciting. So for us, we're trying to build this badass mocktail company and scale it and ultimately be able to then find the right partner who can take it to that next level. Right now we're growing nationally. to be able to really become a behemoth like Master Power brand, it requires a lot of man woman power, capital, and there are companies out there that can absolutely do that. So beginning with the end in mind, we're in hardcore scale mode. And as I talked about, like the line of credit and like just those integral things that have happened in the last year. If I were to have talked to you a year ago and shared the amount of hands that were on the brand versus today, I mean, I don't know if I would have believed it, right? I have so many amazing people who just continue to help us grow, and each day I continue to learn more. So, like I said, hardcore scale mode, but with intention. So hopefully that means finding a really cool acquisition partner in the next 3 to 5 years.
That sounds good. Scott, what's something that each of you would do differently?
Find a therapist earlier. uh, I say that with comedy in mind, but also as a very transparent woman in business who, um, you know, would I tell someone to just green light, go have kids and start a business and scale it? I think if your why is big enough and you are just all in, it's worth it. And then you have to find the right tools to be able to persevere and navigate it. Having my third child versus when I had my first, I mean, I was building a company and I had a baby and the pandemic happened. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening with my hormones and building a mocktail and the whole 9 yards. But in all seriousness, besides therapy or meeting with a therapist, just finding your resources. If I were to talk with other potential women in business who were trying to have children and start something, like, I didn't know anyone else like me. I'm still trying to network and meet more people like me, which is really cool when I mean, especially environments like this, right? They offer up the opportunity to network, learn from each other, but just talk to more people. And again, I would go back to what I said at the beginning. There are so many people out there that believe in you, that want to help you. So you just need to be like willing to open up and allow that to happen.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to say hire my wife sooner. And honestly, I mean, the first person I hired for this brand worked for me for 30 days. I spilled every, ounce of knowledge into them, and they quit and started a competitor brand. Like I said, we don't have much IP. We have to legally print the ingredients on the back of the label, So my wife was never happy at her, previous job after, transition and things that were happening there. And I can't speak for her now, but the freedom of entrepreneurship, I'll just say it that way, is something that if you haven't felt it, if you're working a full-time job now and doing something on the side hustle and not sure when to make that leap, the answer is right now. Just if it's in your heart, if it's in your gut, and you feel like this is the right thing to do, and even if it isn't the right thing to do, okay, the quickest way to success is failure. So, you are going to learn every day of your life whether you succeed or fail. So, and sometimes the lessons you learn failing are the ones that help you succeed the most. So make sure that you take that leap of faith, and even if it is something that's going to take you backwards a step, it's going to lead to 2 steps forward next time. So thanks.
Thank you. Well said. Both of you. Let's give it up for Danielle Goss and Anthony Need. Thanks again to our sponsors, our Sperry. We've got WEDC, the brewing project. Just a quick update. We're dialing in the rest of the season for the Musky tanks. And right now it looks like second week of January. We avoid December, but second week of January we're looking at probably Menominee with Chippewa Valley starter and alternator. And this was another sort of an acquisition, entrepreneurship by acquisition, where a husband and wife team take over his dad's business. And they're going to talk about tariffs and uncertainty in supply chain. Everything in a starter or alternator is steel and copper. So that, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And what's that? Oh, it's Lindsay and Corey Motter. Yeah. And then February, second week of February, Caitlin Taylor from Good Ass Day, not a badass day, but Good Ass Hair. Good Ass Hair is the brand for the dry shampoo, and the company is Good Ass Day. And she has a flaw on. And she's got a wonderful story. She's just a great person. She was on, Ray had her on yesterday morning. So she is going to talk about branding. Okay, and branding, and it's not just saying I'm going to have a brand. It's what's the strategy? What are the tactics? And how do you live it every day? And she's good at it. So we're gonna have that in February, and then we're toying with doing one in the Wausau area, late March, early April. We stay away from December and we stay away from spring break, but that's kind of the target for the rest of the season. And we hope to see you all there, and bring your friends. So we'll be here for a while. Let's get to know people and mingle a little bit. And thank you all for coming out. We really appreciate it.